Hello everyone and welcome to Stu Roo's NFL Preview 98. I am your host Mike Stewart, as always, joined by my friend and colleague Christopher Spiro.
Mike, it's good to be back. Looking forward to a brand new season of football. Can't wait. It seems like it was just yesterday we had the Super Bowl, but looking forward to this season.
I can't wait either. It's coming quick, coming fast. We're looking forward to it as always. Unfortunately, last year we got snowed out for our NFL playoff preview. I know that I didn't do as well as I had done in the past regarding picks. I definitely didn't have the winner, and I didn't even have Denver making it into the Super Bowl. So how did you do?
I actually think I did okay. As I recall back into my crystal ball, I think I had Denver over Green Bay.
Oh, of course we did. Now that it's...
Maybe not. Maybe not. Although I think I did had Denver beating the Patriots, actually, in the championship game. So... good for Denver. Congratulations, AFC. It's about time we get that monkey off our backs, and let's see what happens this season.
Right. No, it should be more than an interesting season with a lot of things that are going to be developing, a lot of up-and-coming teams, a lot of teams that are getting older now, that they might have some problems. It's pretty wide open as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think we're in a transitional point right now where the top few teams have been up there for quite some time. We're looking for some of those lower echelon teams to start to make their break into the top half of the league. It seems like since we've been doing the show, that's been an awful lot of the Dallases and the San Franciscos and the Denvers and even the Patriots now. They've been in the playoffs for quite some time. We're looking for an infusion of new teams and new youth of playoff contenders. It's a matter of will these up-and-coming teams make it this year to break into the playoffs?
Well, that's what we're here to try and figure out for everybody. We're going to see what type of breakdown we look forward to, what type of teams we expect to make the playoffs, what type of teams we make that might dip a little bit in the upcoming year. Obviously, things are, in terms of who's going to win the Super Bowl, are pretty wide open. But as you stated very well, it's pretty much every year, same teams. We try to get some new teams in once in a while, but it's very difficult to groom these type of players, get good draft picks, make it all work, and keep everybody together.
Yeah, even people talk about how with free agency, players are moving all the time, and it does make sense that players are moving because they're going to chase the dollar bill. But yet it seems that the teams that often have the dollar bills are often the teams that are still the contenders. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. Somehow they have some cap mastery, and they're always able to get their needs filled at the positions they need and still stay in the playoffs. They're one of the I think they were the oldest team in the league last year. And, again, this year they're probably going to be, one of the older teams, yet still they've got to be considered one of the favorites, to at least get to the Super Bowl.
Right.
The same thing with Dallas. These teams that, lose players still seem to get new players, and it's those other teams like, I don't know, let's say the Falcons or the Seahawks, who we continually pick as our sleeper teams,
right,
and should always be bubbling under. They just keep bubbling under. They can't seem to make that break right into the consistent playoff atmosphere.
Yeah, no, certainly those circumstances do apply to a lot of the same teams. You end up with a lot of your barrel teams, your Indianapolis's, New Orleans. Although San Diego wouldn't really qualify, they were there at the Super Bowl recently, Chicago recently. I mean, these are the same teams that just, no matter who they draft, they can't seem to get better. And their management's not doing what they need to do in order to build some type of a contender and kind of turn things around. It seems like the turnaround time for a lot of these teams has really fallen off, whereas the top teams stay the top teams and the bottom teams seem to be staying the bottom teams. I love baseball. It becomes money.
Yeah, it's really tough to figure because like a team like the Patriots, where they happen to have good management from the top down, when they were down at the bottom, they got their way back into playoff contention within a few years. For example, this is Jimmy Johnson's. This is the third year of his his 3-year plan. Is this a year that the Dolphins are going to do something in the playoffs? Dan Marino's getting on. This could be his last season. We really don't know, but all those teams have those plans to try to get into the playoffs, and most of those plans should be coming up soon because, like we've said, we've seen the same teams in the playoffs for quite some time now. Is this going to be a year where there's some changes going on? We'll have to see.
Well, that's kind of what we're here for and try to figure out. And why don't we go to the graphics here? Just saw it pop up onto the screen there. These are my AFC East predictions. So the division, obviously, we know a lot about. As you can see, I like New England to kind of run away with this division at 12-4.
I guess so.
I look at their schedule, and yes, the Ernie Zampese offense is going to take some time potentially to gel. But you look at last year's, the same thing with the defense and Pete Carroll's system and the Sidwell, and that by the time the 8th game came along, their defense was probably the best in the entire league. And I look for the defense to totally carry us this year And with the potentially easy schedule, a lot of the teams I see in there should be walkovers if they're playing game. And obviously the key is the running game. If Robert Edwards can get going, then that should be great. Moving down the list here, we got the New York Jets, 8-8. A little bit of quarterback controversy there. It depends on who's the quarterback as to how far I think that they can go. Obviously, Curtis Martin, if he's healthy, can carry that team single-handedly. He's shown that with the New England Patriots in the past. Their defense, they're a little bit of ways from being a top-notch team. Their special teams, Leon Johnson's just phenomenal. Miami Dolphins, 7-9. I'm a little bit down on them. Dan Marino showed last year that he's definitely on the downside of things. Now, whether he can turn that around under their new offensive system and scheme, then potentially they can put a better record than 7-9 because they do have some talent. John Avery looks like he could unseat Mr. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the running backfield based on some early preseason stuff. Buffalo, Rob Johnson, I like him a lot. I think maybe in a couple of years they might have themselves quite a little backfield with Antoine Smith and Gash, coupled with maybe some influx of new receivers. Obviously, Moulds doesn't look like he's going to be able to do the job for them, and Andre Reed's getting up in the years. But in time, I think Buffalo can maybe get back to where they once were. Indianapolis, Peyton Manning, obviously, the franchise quarterback, Leaf, Manning, Leaf. They didn't know which way to go. They went with the guy that they thought could bring them somewhere down the road. He looks like an NFL quarterback. And I think right now they're going to have their lumps, their offensive line, and that's what a lot of things balance on is the offensive line. And I think that Indianapolis down the road, Falk, Harrison, they should be they should be all right.
They still have some weapons. It's hard to really disagree with much of your assessment. With how you see the division going. Again, we do know the Patriots, and I really tried my best not to play the favorite. Like I'm going to pick them because I like them, but it's more so that they are the class of the division. If you go through 1 to 49, all the players on the teams, they're definitely the pick of the division. I have them.
Yeah, let's see what you have up there for your picks.
Okay,
here we go.
Yeah, actually, I have them at 11-5. I think that's pretty respectable considering they still are going to be playing a first place schedule. Miami, I still kind of like. I think that Marino still has some juice in him. I know they were embarrassed pretty much by the 2 losses to the Patriots at the end of last season, and being able to pick out what kind of audibles he would be calling and just the predictability of the offense. Jimmy Johnson should have made the change right when he started, but he didn't because everyone thought that you couldn't mess with Dan Marino. Well, after a couple of years, you have to do what you feel is right, and I think that the change of the offense is going to help him out. I do like Avery and Jabbar. It's good to have the 2-back thing seems to be kind of a hot thing going on in the league this year with a lot of teams having a couple of backs that could be able to do the job. So they should still be up there, I think. The Jets, they might be a better team than they were last year, but they are playing a tougher schedule. They're definitely not going to sneak up on anybody like they did the year before. So 8-8, 500. That's probably going to make them whine in East Rutherford, but I think Bill's going to try to toe the line and say, look, we're getting better. Like Mike said earlier, the quarterback controversy really isn't helping a whole lot. We'll see if Curtis Martin can stay healthy for 16 games. If not, Leon Johnson might have to stop his role as the great special teams player and try to jump in the backfield. Buffalo. I also, too, like Rob Johnson. I think that's a great move for them. They have to use Antoine Smith a little more. I think he was misused last year. They went away from the running game a little too early. And obviously Thurman Thomas was still there, so they have to give him his due respect. But I think it's time to pass along the changing of the guard to him. And Indy, they had a tough offensive line. We all know how tough Captain Comeback had it last year, getting beat up and whatnot. Now it's Peyton Manning's turn. He does still, look like he's a college quarterback, but, so did Drew Bledsoe when he first came out. These things take time. He's going to learn to read pro defenses. He does have some weapons with him, with Falk and Harrison. He's got a nice tight end in Ken Dilger. They'll be okay, but, they're obviously not going to make any playoff run this year. It's going to be the Patriots in the AFC East.
There's one of the things that I noticed doing the graphics here for our show is that we have 15 of the exact same records for the teams here. I mean,
we don't consult each other beforehand.
It just kind of happened that way, and I think that has a lot to do with consensus. I mean, there's things you just kind of see that are kind of written in black and white. And there's a lot of things, and the things similar here was Buffalo and New York and Indy. I mean, those are right around where they should be, in theory.
It's also, the thing where, like, before maybe there was a stacked division where you'd see a couple of 3, maybe even 4 teams, like maybe even the NFC Central last year, where they'd be beating each other up, and so you'd have very common records in the middle, trying to filter everyone out. But in most of these divisions, you can almost break it down, who's going to come in first, who's going to come in second. The records might differ by a game or two, but pretty much you could ask anyone, and they'll give you the same listing, 1 to 5.
List. We've pretty much seen the same type of lists in all the publications.
Yeah.
Although SI, for whatever reason, has the Jets at 10-6 and the Pats at 9-7.
Yeah,
if we end up 9-7, that's
we're going to be frowning.
trouble.
That's gonna be pretty bad. But I think that's a fluky thing. But I think overall, I think the Patriots have to be the choice.
Class of the AFC East, I think. Why don't we move to the AFC Central, which I think is one of the more interesting divisions, and take a peek here at Chris's picks for this upcoming season?
Yeah, the Central is interesting because, as you can see, I have Pittsburgh and Jacksonville at the top, which is fairly similar to what happened last year. The reason I have Pittsburgh winning out is I still like the ability to ram the football down someone's mouth, and there's no doubt that Jerome Bettis, allows you to do that. Cordell Stewart, I'm not totally convinced about his ability as a NFL quarterback, but you have to give him, his due. That he led the team to a championship game, and he does offer a lot of different threats. He threw the ball better last year than he did previously. Granted, he didn't have as much time the year before, but he's coming along. Maybe this year will be a year where I get off of his case and say, okay, he can, he's going to be a good one. But Pittsburgh's good enough. Their defense is excellent. You got to like Lamont Kirkland and Jason Gilden. They're going to be a tough D, as we saw with the Patriots playoff game last year. They're stingy bunch, just like the Pats. Jacksonville again, they've got good offense, good defense also. You got to like Mark Brunell. He's not quite a Favre Jr., but he's in that same mold. He'll make plays happen. Their D is good too. You got to like Hardy and Schwartz. Coach Coughlin always, gets his troops ready, so they should be contending. That could actually flip-flop. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. Tennessee, I think the Commodores. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant the Oilers. They're playing at Vanderbilt this year. Sooner or later, they're going to get a home field advantage, but maybe they'll be a little bit more settled in Tennessee this year. McNair had a better year, growing, and Eddie George, showed he can be an All-Pro running back. Defense still a little suspect, but they're coming along. I think they're going to be all right. Cincinnati make the quarterback change with Neil O'Donnell taking over for Jeff Blake. Again, he's a Super Bowl quarterback, but that was a while ago, and there's they've got some talent there. He seems to like Darnay Scott, but Carl Pickens is still there. There's Kajana Carter and Corey Dillon. There's weapons. There's weapons in Cincinnati. The Ravens, they have Jim Harbaugh's now running the show there. I don't know. I just, granted they might have a great defense, working down there, and Jonathan Ogden's a big guy, helping out Bam Morris. Their offense, who really knows? Right. So Baltimore, not too much. We're going to go with the Steelers in the Central. Jacksonville, right there,
right.
Playoff contention and whatnot, but I just see it hard. It's tough when you got the big back who's been pretty sturdy, actually.
He has been very sturdy
for the few years now. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh, Mike. What are you looking at in the Central?
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of a stance and say I like Jacksonville by a couple of games.
Whoa.
In fact, I think that Jacksonville, with the pickup of Bryce Pop, I mean, he may be in the tail end of his career, but in addition to Hardy and Schwartz, as you mentioned, and that linebacking core with the front of Tony Brackensill, I did think he got injured recently.
Yeah.
I don't know how severe that was, but their defense is solid. Obviously, their offense for the last couple of years has been very good with Brunell at the helm, Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardle, Pete Mitchell, tight end from BC, who seems to be one of his favorite targets. And now they're with the situation with the backfield. James Stewart's feeling the pressure of Freddie Taylor, the ninth pick in the draft. That should be an interesting battle. They give a different type of running styles, and potentially with Coughlin at the helm, they can really do some damage. I like for them to go 11-5 and kind of carry the division. Pittsburgh, every year I keep saying, they got to fall down. They keep losing people, and yet Coward just keeps on getting the job done. They rewarded him with a lengthy contract. He is just so intense, such a great coach, and it just seems like they could never be below 500 with him behind the scene. And if anybody has a chance at Don Shula's all-time winning record, if he stays together and as a coach, because he's so fiery and fired up that I think he's going to blow a fuse one of these days. But he's so young now that if he continues to win, that he could get the job done and pass Shula in terms of the amount of wins all time. It's kind of a stretch, but we'll see what happens. But in terms of their team, Bettis, people kind of key on him, make Cordell beat you. Cordell did that for the most part last year. I don't know if he's going to have as much luck this year. I think he may have a little bit of growing pains, maybe kind of the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward. Maybe next year, if they can kind of keep some people instead of losing everybody, like they lost Yancey Thigpen now, maybe that Charles Johnson could be the guy. But I think that's a situation where you have to see where it happens. But I think Cordell maybe takes a step back. Cincinnati, I like what they did in the draft. They picked up some more defensive talent. That was their weak spot. Now, I didn't expect Neil O'Donnell to show up on the doorstep and be the starting quarterback. I was banking on Jeff Blake. But Neil O'Donnell, he's not the worst quarterback, and usually he doesn't hurt you. If you look at his numbers from last year with the Jets, they weren't bad. They just had a bad team, bad offensive line, and they weren't successful when it counted. But I think Neil can get the job done with the addition of that backfield that they now have with Corey Dillon running for 200-plus yards at the end of the season. Everyone seems to be high on him with Pickens and Darnay Scott still around. And their defense on the up. They're a team that's up and coming, and I look for them to maybe even sneak into the playoffs. We'll have to wait and see on that. Tennessee is one of those teams that if they can figure out that home field situation with McNair and Eddie George, and now they picked up Yancey Thigpen. Their defenses were the weak link there, but Fish has always been kind of a defensive-minded person. I think that eventually that defense will grasp things, have enough talent to maybe succeed in what they're doing. They're not far away. They are not far away. That should be actually an interesting game when the Patriots play 3rd week of the season. Baltimore Ravens are, I look at this division, and top to bottom, they compete with the NFC Central. In fact, I think from top to bottom, this may be the best division in football, because even though I have Baltimore at 5-11, it's 5-11 because they got to play all these good teams in front of them. Absolutely. It's not so much that they're a bad team. Harbaugh's proven he can do the quarterbacking job in the NFL, taking his licks. Sure. They have a great offensive line. Eric Rett, I think he's going to be the sleeper pick player of the year if you're in any of your fantasy stuff, because I think he's going to put up good numbers. He had 1,000 yards with Tampa Bay and a not so good line. Now he's going to be behind a huge offensive line in Baltimore. Again, defense. We're not sure one way or the other. Boulware, he can rush the quarterback. They can get some sacks, right? Lewis. We're not sure one way or the other with their defense, and that's why probably maybe next year there could be a flip-flop. Maybe Pittsburgh eventually with Stewart maybe falling instead of rising, and Cincinnati and Tennessee and Baltimore can start to turn the table. But that's such a tough division that you just don't know from year to year. There could be surprises, there could not. They keep beating each other up, kind of like the NFC Central.
Yeah, there's no doubt that even the last 3 teams, even though we flip-flopped on Pittsburgh and Jacksonville, that Tennessee, Cincinnati, Baltimore, they could easily do well, and perhaps in a weaker division. Like say that they happen to be one of the teams that took San Francisco's place in the NFC West. We haven't gotten there yet, obviously, but I think we're going to agree that that's a pretty weak division.
Totally.
You're going to give San Francisco 8 wins just by playing the teams in the division. You put one of those other AFC Central teams in there,
right?
They're competing for a division title.
I absolutely agree.
It is going to be a struggle. I just happen to maybe give Cordell a little bit more props than Mike does for now. But again, he did struggle for many. There's a few first halves of games last year where he was 3 for 11 with 4 picks, but he would come back in the second half and throw 4 touchdown passes, and just very erratic. I'm just thinking maybe he's going to grow this year. This is going to be a big year for the Steelers and his development to see if they are going to stay up there as one of those teams, or will these other 3 teams that are bubbling under rise to the top?
Right, and if Bettis can't carry the load, if they key on him, then Pittsburgh's in trouble.
Yeah.
Want to move on to the AFC West, take a look at my picks for what the division that had the Super Bowl winner, Denver Broncos. I have Kansas City and Denver both at 11-5. I put Kansas City on a tiebreaker thing. I'm not really sure why, but they actually defending AFC West champs. They won the division with a 13-3 record last year. Kind of surprised some folks, but Andre Rison stepped up. Elvis Gerback had himself a pretty good year. Hill and Allen, although they're both gone, last year they played well. This year they're looking for Donnell Bennett to get the job done. Hopefully he can run, although their interest in Lawrence Phillips makes us wonder what the circumstances are surrounding Donnell Bennett. Kansas City, though, defense, and that's why, we talk about the Jacksonvilles and the New Englands and the San Franciscos and the Tampa Bays. It's because defense. Defense wins games, period. And that's why they'll be at least 11-5, maybe even better, if Donnell Bennett can get the running job and stays with it. And obviously, because Gerback now has Derek Alexander to help with Gonzalez, who's another sleeper guy, tight end. They could be an interesting team. Denver, 11-5, Super Bowl champs. I think that 11-5 may even be on the high side, just because in a year after winning a Super Bowl, perennially it's been a down year the following year for most teams in terms of regular season record. Some teams don't even make the playoffs after winning the Super Bowl. They're an older team. Perhaps they may feel that things have they've attained their goals, and they may fall back off the map a little bit. Seattle, I had it 7-9. Every year we talk about Seattle and say, yeah, they could break out, they could be the team. Oh my God, Now they go and get Ricky Waters. Yeah, they could be the team. Warren Moon's really old. They still have Joey Galloway, one of the best threat wide receivers in the game. The defense is still pretty solid, so you just never know. And with Erickson up there, I just feel unstable about giving them any type of better record than 7-9. Oakland, I think, they're rebounding now that they picked up John Gruden, great offensive mind from the Eagles. The Pats actually tried to get him at one point. Tim Brown, wide receiver, you're going to be looked to by Jeff George all year long. Ricky Dudley, if he can ever keep his hands on the ball like he did last year more than the year before, then he should be a real threat. And obviously they have Napoleon Kaufman out of the backfield. Their defense, nothing to be writing home about. And that's, I think, probably the weak link right now. Again, one of those teams that offensively you look at and you go, wow, if you're in a fantasy league, I'll take any one of those players. But, you have to also play defense. So San Diego took, obviously, Ryan Leaf. They paid a lot to Arizona to move up one spot, but they were afraid of somebody stepping up and taking him because he's a legitimate quarterback, and he's looked very good in preseason. Obviously, they just lost so many people. They're bringing back Natron Means. Why? We don't know. They're gonna have some struggles over there. Beathard continually tries to trade his first-round draft picks. Why? We don't know. And until he does some type of a system where he's going to keep on to these people and try to build through draft picks instead of trying to trade and moving around and doing all these crazy things, then I don't think they're going to be able to go anywhere. So I have them at 3-13. Why don't we take a peek and we'll see what you have to say about the NFC West?
Yeah, it's hard to really argue with. Again, we're trying to put people, new teams up there, but I also Denver and Kansas City. Although I gave the home edge to Denver, I think that probably may be because of their conference record. Because I think Denver is going to beat the Patriots in Week 1. But we're not going to get into that.
Ouch.
They're returning most everybody. There might be some questions on the offensive line situation,
right.
But I think that Shanahan's smart enough. They're going to maybe try to do a couple more things where. There'll be some quick drops and whatnot. They do have a good receiving core. Again, everyone's back. Right. Shannon Sharp and Rod Smith had actually everyone. He kind of came up from nowhere and surprised some folks, and he filled in pretty well. I like Denver. Kansas City. Again, they do have a great defense, but the running back situation again. We talk about how many teams have 2 running backs, and if you put that in the Kansas City's case, if you throw out Lawrence Phillips, which they shouldn't sign, right. They have the Donnell Bennett, Kimball Anders backfield, which it doesn't remind anyone of Mike Allstott and Warwick Dunn even, right. And that's not even saying a whole lot. So again, with Elvis at the quarterback, defenses do win championships, but offense, you have to put some points on the board.
Something really helpful.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But they are definitely going to, both of those are playoff teams. I think they can, they're pretty much just going to walk to the playoffs. I like Seattle a little bit more than Mike did. I think that Warren Moon and Ricky Waters, granted Warren Moon is about to collect Social Security. I think he's about a year or 2 away. But he still does it. It's one of those guys where it's like, geez, when is he just going to stop? And he doesn't. I think the thing with Warren Moon is that he's very accurate. They've got a good receiving core in Seattle. Ricky Waters is probably, he maybe lost a step. He's not the same back he was, previously in San Francisco or Philadelphia. But they should have a good balanced attack, which should keep defenses, on their toes, saying, geez, what are they going to do?
Right.
How are we going to stop this team? So I think that they're going to be pretty good. The Raiders, as Mike said, you got to like Jeff George and James Jett. They've got plenty of people to to score. It's just, last year they had a bunch of blowouts, and it just didn't work out. And unfortunately, I think Jeff George is just a loser. Not that he's a bad person or whatnot, but just it's not going to happen for him. His career started off bad, and it's just not going to work. San Diego, I like Leaf. I think he's going to be one of those break my nose and I don't care, one of those guys. Let's just go out and win.
Right.
Natron doesn't really do it for me either, but he has been a capable back when healthy. The defense, I think, is a question again there. They need some help just to try to rally the troops. I think the acquisition of Leaf, I think him being kind of a tough guy, just average Joe, helps the team come together as a whole. He's not maybe as much of a pretty boy as maybe Peyton Manning was. Here's this jet setter, from the great bloodlines coming in. I'm one of you guys. I'm going to mix it up with you.
Right.
And I think that's going to help San Diego. Just a little chemistry because they could use that help. They were kind of going their own separate ways at the end of last year, but not enough to do anything in the playoffs this year. It looks like it's going to be Denver and Kansas City pretty much going into the playoffs from the AFC West.
Right. I can't disagree pretty much because of the circumstances that surround that particular division. Seattle and Oakland and San Diego are in the rebuilding stages for the most part with new coaches. San Diego obviously with new quarterback and trying to get all that stuff. I mean, Seattle, I shouldn't say they're rebuilding. They should be doing more, but they just haven't been able to get past that point. And I think the analogy of what I was thinking when you were talking about Ryan Leaf is Jim Kelly. Right.
See, Jim Kelly. He'll get in your face, but there's still respect there. We remember that whole Andre Reed thing working. But it's about team, and Ryan Leaf I think is about team. Peyton Manning, I think they're still kind of concerned. It's like is this hot shot think he's going to come in and run the show, or is he going to be really one of us?
Right.
I think for San Diego's purposes, Ryan Leaf, they were happy to move up in the draft and have him fall in their lap because he's the kind of guy that Bobby Bethard wants in there to really rally the troops. They are rebuilding. Seattle should also be doing a little bit more to get them going. They've got a decent defense. Sam Jones should be a threat really to. I'm sorry, Sam Adams should be a threat to really run in there and
Right.
start creating havoc in offensive backfields. They're close. Again, we could be seeing the fall of Denver and Kansas
Right.
City. Is this going to be Seattle's year to finally at least become a playoff team?
Absolutely.
It's close. Some of the records of those other teams are going to be fighting for a wild card spot. They could be faltering in that 10-win, 9-win situation.
Right.
Maybe Seattle sneaks in, maybe not, but
Right.
we're going to keep saying this until finally they decide to tank it or get up into the upper echelon.
Quarterback, I think, is the question up there. I mean, Warren, if he goes down, they get trouble with the backup situation, and if he's there, that's fine. But I think you need that franchise quarterback in essence to be able to step up each year as you progress. And I think San Diego's. Hopefully, if the kid Rick's there that they picked up, they moved up into the second round, gave another pick away. If he can develop a little bit and build some type of repertoire with Leaf, and maybe a running back situation can work out.
Still turn it around, maybe catch some balls.
But then those teams can go on the up, whereas Kansas City's getting up in years actually. If you think about what their roster, Dale Carter's and the
their
people they went and
defense
picked
is really
out.
based on a lot of older players that are good, but they are, most of them are past 30,
Right.
32 years old, so they could be heading to the downside too. So maybe
Right.
this could be a switching year for the West.
Could be, might not be. Why don't we move over to the NFC East and take a peek at Chris's picks?
Yeah.
What do we have here?
Let's see.
Dallas, there's a shot.
How about them Cowboys? If they're not stabbing each other or getting in trouble at someone else's girlfriend's house, and they're on the football field, I think they'll do all right. I like Changeli. He's probably going to come under a lot of fire if they start out 2-3 or 2-4. I think they have to get to a good start just to get their own psyche squared away. I think that the more emphasis on being structured, whereas Barry was kind of more of a Barry Switzer was more of a freelance, loose guy. They need the structure. I think it's going to work out. This also is a tough division. I like Washington and Arizona. Washington again. They've got an awesome defense. The D line is just huge now with Wilkerson and Stubblefield in there.
Right.
Is Gus Frerotte, going to take you anywhere? That's a question. It's a lot of it always. The defense is very important, obviously, but can your quarterback also take you there too? that's going to be a question with Washington. That's why I actually have Arizona having a good season. Jake Plummer has taken to Mark Trestman's offense, and they're going to be coming around. They also have got a decent defense in Arizona. That again, that could be maybe a year or two away, but I think that a big part of why I have them playing so well is that I think the Giants are going to be falling off this year. I kind of think, I don't really know why or how to explain it, but I think they kind of got lucky. Things just kind of fell their way, all last year. It was kind of like one of those seasons where it's like they couldn't do anything wrong.
Right.
But this year, I think they're going to be back to earth. I don't really like Danny Cannell or
Right.
Dave Brown. If you want to go either way,
Right.
they still have a lot of questions at running back. They've been using a lot of Charles Way, and then there's still Hampton is still there, and Wheatley. What's the deal? They're all add them all together, and they're pretty much an average back anyway.
Right.
Philadelphia, they pretty much everyone's left town. I don't know, what to say. I think this is going to be Ray Rhodes' swan song. If not, at the end of the year, maybe even before that.
Right.
Jeffrey Lurie might just say, look, it's not going to work out. Why don't we just, clean house and start anew? So I think Philadelphia really has little chance to do anything positive this year. From my standpoint, I think it's going to be Dallas in the NFC East. They still have all the weapons. There's a question about Emmett. What's his status? They do have Chris Warren in case Emmett goes down, which he has been injury prone the past couple of years. Warren is a decent back. There are different styles of running, and maybe that might call for a different play calling, and that might make some offensive adhesion not going so well. That won't be so smooth. But I still think that in that division that Dallas has the class of the talent.
Right.
Washington has a quality D. They are going to cause some trouble. Washington and seems to have Dallas's number. Norv Turner, good coach. It's a matter of, do you trust Terry Allen? Do you trust Gus Frerotte?
Right.
How far can they take you? I just don't think they can take it to the division title. I like Dallas and Washington in the NFC East. Mike, you tell me, who's going to win the NFC East?
Well, I mean, I ride you about your pick there, but as you can see, that's one of the 15 we have exact. Actually, there's 3 of the teams, the top rate there, we have the same records for both. However, I have actually Arizona ahead of Washington in any type of tiebreaker situation.
Right.
And in Washington, as you stated, Frerotte and Terry Allen, you don't know, and people weren't as high on Skip Hicks, so even if he goes down, there's no guarantee Hicks can get the job done.
No.
I like Arizona. I think Plummer's tooth and nail. He'll do anything to get a touchdown, make a pass, run the ball, throw it long, throw it short, find Rob Moore, find Frank Sanders. Their backfield, center's great catcher out of the backfield. He'll catch and run and make some moves. Adrian Morrell looked good with the Jets, so maybe he can do something in terms of maybe getting over 1,000 yards with the Arizona. Their offensive line is their question. 78 sacks last year for Jake Plummer. That is not acceptable at all. I think they call that the offensive line 78 if I heard somewhere along the line. So if they can turn that around, then I like Arizona because their defense is phenomenal. Now Wadsworth still not in town, but at some point he has to come in. The paychecks start coming, and you don't have one, then you decide you're going to play.
He can go back to school.
Right,
later.
And once he shows up with Eric Swan and Hill and Aeneas Williams, I mean, they are one of the best defenses in the league. Like you said, Trustman and Plummer, that relationship's forming, and I think Arizona could be one of those teams you really we will enjoy watching. Philadelphia, like Chris says, everyone's pretty much gone from there. Fryer's up in years. Hoying, I mean, I don't know. Charlie Garner. There was a reason why he was a backup running back. 8-8 actually might be a little bit on the high side. And actually the Giants 6-10, I have them even following further than you have them because they just lost Sehorn on top of all their fluky things that happened to them last year. Cannell does nothing for me. Put all those running backs, like you said, together. It still doesn't get anybody close to like a Barry Sanders or anything like that. If you can't throw the ball and you can't run the ball, you can only play defense. Now, they do have a pretty good defense with a lot of unnamed people, Strahan, Jesse Armstead, but Jason Sehorn was one of the people of that puzzle, and to have him gone for the year because he's trying to return punts, Fossil's got to be shot on the spot for that one.
You have a great corner like that, and to lose him.
And to let him get a run back first time, boom, gone. And they had worried about that. I saw something on they were saying, well, I don't know if we should be doing that. He goes out there in the first play, boom, gone, hurt, done. And I think that they're going to be in some serious trouble. So I like Dallas and Arizona and Washington. Washington, we'll see with them. It depends with Frerotte, but same things. Dallas, even
Yeah.
though they got some trouble, and they had trouble last year at 6-10, you know, with Shane Gailey's offense, I mean, after a while, similar to the New England situation, I think they should grasp it and they'll take the division. Why don't we move to the NFC Central? The North.
Black and blue.
Look what we
What
have
the-
here.
Is that upside down?
No, Tampa Bay, 12-4. Guess who's on the bandwagon?
Tampa
The
Bay.
Tony Dungy bandwagon.
Oh.
You know, they've been taking little steps. They've been moving up the ladder. They've been following. They've been believing, not just following. They've been believing in everything Tony Dungy has told them thus far. The defense is great.
Oh.
Warren Sapp could have a serious amount of sacks this year. And I believe in Trent Dilfer. I was tossing around with some folks at work today, and they don't believe in Dilfer. I do. And with our running backfield of Mike Allstott, who I just love, and Warwick Dunn, who's the speed and that, what were they, lightning and thunder? Or, I don't know, something like that. They look great. They picked up Bert Emanuel to give a deep threat, somebody that can actually catch the ball for Trent Dilfer. And then they also have Rydell Anthony, a rookie second year. Took him a little time to develop. 12-4, I have them beating out Green Bay, who, you know, every year you're going to, if you have Brett Favre and Freeman, I'm sure Levins will be signed any day now, and the defense that they have, they're going to put up good record. Their schedule has given them an opportunity, obviously, to put up to put up enough wins to get them into the playoffs. This is such a good division, as I said. I think if Chicago was any bit better, you'd pick this automatically as the best overall division.
Right.
But I think if you talk about, you know, the
Top
top
to bottom,
echelons teams, this is the best. This is better than the AFC Central because of Minnesota at 10-6, who is one of my sleeper teams in terms. You know, you can't say 10-6 and they're really sleeper, but I mean, I had a sleeper team to actually win the Super Bowl. They have 3 unbelievable receivers. Robert Smith, if he stays healthy, is awesome. If Johnson's neck can hold out for the year, and if their defensive situation can withstand the pressure that they had last year, and I speak about the corners, they picked up Hitchcock, we don't know about that, but if their defense can form into something even remotely close to your New Englands and your Arizonas and your Denvers, then Minnesota could be a team that could roll all the way to the playoffs into the Super Bowl. So Detroit, Barry Sanders, obviously, you know, when you have Barry Sanders, that's a good thing. If you have Scott Mitchell, that's not a good thing. They have Herman Moore, Johnny Morton, still, again, another one of those teams, great offense, defense, we're not sure about. Chicago, 4-12. I don't know how Dave Wanstead still has a job, to be perfectly honest. You know, that's not a good situation there. Curtis Enos, I was not high on him. I'm so glad the Patriots didn't trade up to try to pick him up. I'm down on him. The guy probably go out and run for 2,000 yards, make me look like a fool, but
No way.
they're really in a rebuilding situation. And why they're holding on to Wanstead when they brought him in to try to fuse a Super Bowl contender, and it's not happening. Why they hold on to him, I don't know.
No.
But what do you got?
Let's see. I think I'm still hanging on to Green Bay. You know, they went to the Super Bowl last year. They pretty much have a lot of the same cogs in the wheels that rolled them to the Super Bowl. And, you know, it was a tough loss. I think they in that theory of, you know, we've won it, now we get a little lackadaisical. It didn't necessarily fit in with them, but I think that they thought, they might have believed the hype, actually, that they were going to just roll over another AFC team. But, sorry. So they've got something to fight for. So, you know, there's no reason not to like them. Obviously, we can go into, you know, Favre and Freeman and Levins and everybody, you know, everybody more. It doesn't really matter. The defense is still, you know, excellent. They're good. They're obviously that's not a question. Minnesota, I like, you know, like you were saying before. Johnson is a big question with them because Randall, you know, while he's probably a decent backup now, they're going to go with Brad Johnson. The 3 receivers they have are, you know, outstanding. They're huge. You know, they're leapers. We went to the preseason game, saw Randy Moss, and you know, he didn't maybe catch a lot of balls, but you know, he definitely had the opportunity to the touchdown catch he did make. He was a nice reach around grab, came back and made an adjustment. Right. Something you see in a veteran receiver, you know, and he's going against corners which are going to be, you know, maybe almost half a foot shorter than him. So that's just a terrific attack that they're going to have in Minnesota. You have to like what they're going to do. Right. I'm a little down on Tampa Bay for the reasons Mike said that he was talking to folks at work today. I am not the Trent Dilfer card-carrying member of his fan club. You know, I do love the backfield and the defense. I love Warren Sapp. They're quality people. Dilfer's been hot and cold in the preseason. Granted, you can't throw everything on the preseason. He's still working on it, but he just doesn't do it for me. I think they were another team last year, like the Jets, kind of snuck up on some folks. This year, you know, they're going to have a tougher schedule. 9-7 is still respectable. You know, if you told a Buccaneer fan, you know, 5 years ago, hey, you know, they're going to have a couple go to the playoffs and go 9-7, they'd take it. It is Chicago that's the doormat of the division. They're just awful, like you say. You know, Dave Wannstedt, you know, they tried. You know, think, well, he's from the Dallas pipeline. You know, it's got to work out. It's not going to work out. You know, Eric Kramer, Rick Meyer. You know, it's just awful. And you know, Mike is right. You know, I had everything crossed possible that we weren't going to trade up to take Curtis Enos, because you know he's probably going to, if anything, fit in the Blair Thomas mold of running backs. They're not going anywhere. You know, they might as well. They should have probably just scrapped Wannstedt at the end of last year.
I thought so. I mean, it didn't make any sense for you to hold on to a guy when you know that your teams can be no better than 5-11 the following year.
Yeah, you know, it's like, look, let's just try again. You know, this experiment didn't work.
Right.
You know, let's just clean it out. You know, hey, maybe he is a great guy. You know, maybe he's just one of those guys you want to have on your team because he's, you know, he can be fiery and feisty, you know, and try to rile the troops up. But if they've tuned you out already, it really doesn't matter. You know, you got to try that play somewhere else because it's not, you know, it's definitely not going to work at Soldier Field. You know, it's too bad because they're a proud franchise, and it's just, you know, they're just going to be floundering for a while. I don't know when they're going to come back because there's nothing on the horizon which even leads you to see there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, we should say that there may be a light at the end of the tunnel if they can beat out New Orleans, and find themselves in the situation for Tim Couch or the other guy there. Then they should be fine for a quarterback. And if Enos can be respectable, then perhaps they, you know, maybe in the near future, if you get yourself a franchise quarterback with a half-decent running back and a new coach, if they go out and do that like they should, I mean, their defense isn't bad, but, you know, their 4-12 record's more indicative of the fact that they have to play 4 quality teams, 4 quality offenses.
Yeah, you can benchmark 7 to 8 losses already there with that schedule they have to play. You know, that's where, you know, in the other divisions where the good teams beat up on each other and they end up 500, this is a case where Chicago gets beat up and they go 0-7 when they play these teams. It's just not, you know, it's not a good equation for them.
No, not at all. And I think that's maybe part of the reason why I like Detroit and being at 8-8 because they're just a little bit below the other 3 teams, and if you're just a little bit below on any given Sunday, you're going to lose more than you win, and I think that's how they may beat up on other people because they probably, if you put them in a handful of other divisions, they probably roll through the division.
They're a wild card contender.
Right, but because of they're in that tough spot to get a playoff spot. So, NFC West.
Yeah, you know.
This should be quick.
So yeah, again, let's continue that mode with good teams beating up on each other and then going 500. We have Chicago, who's a bad team, going against a tough division, and they're assured of 7 or 8 losses right there. Here we have San Francisco, which is a pretty good team. They got 4 teams which they're going to beat up, and that's 8 wins. So if you really look at how I have it, they win 8 games against this division. They only really win. They go 2-6 out of the division. So they're not. You know, I still like them. Obviously, they're going to win the division, but you know, I'm leaning towards, okay, I think San Francisco, this is going to be their last ride. Maybe Jerry and Steve, you know, they're just going to try to hold on and maybe come through, get one more chance at the ring. And with this division, it's very simple to do because they pretty much they could almost go 8-8 and still win the division. That's how sad it is.
It is pretty bad.
But they're a decent team. The development of Stokes and Owens, you know, should help the O. Owens had a great day last preseason game. I think he got 3 touchdown passes, 140 some odd yards.
Right.
He will be Jerry Rice's replacement probably. Stokes hasn't panned out the way they have. Maybe he's going to be the Taylor of the Taylor-Rice combination. We'll have to see. But, you know, they're still a good team. I like them a lot.
Right.
I have Atlanta actually finishing 2nd in the division, which is probably a little bit of a surprise. Apparently, Chris Chandler and Tony Martin have been hooking up like they've been doing it for years. Tony Martin's a good addition with the loss of Emmanuel there. Jamal Anderson, you know, decent back. Again, you know, all these teams, you could almost put them in a bucket and go, not so hot. But you know, O.J. Santiago is a decent tight end. You know, they got a receiving core.
Right.
You know, the problem with Atlanta is their defense. Where as you go to my next team, Carolina, they've got a pretty good defense. with the addition of Greg Lloyd. It's the offense again where, Fred Lane, Biaka Batuka, Kerry Collins, is that a good, NFL team, or should they be playing the Rough Riders in Saskatchewan or something? It's just a bunch of guys that, I like Dom Capers, I like him a lot. Obviously that both with Jacksonville and Carolina, when they came in, they had great starts right away.
Right.
And that's when you build up your expectations. They've had some injuries, back and forth. They had a couple of draft picks kind of hurt themselves. What's going to happen now? I don't really know. Kerry Collins should be okay for the beginning of the season with broken nose again.
Yep.
But it's just these little things that just you think maybe the team's just not jinxed, but something's not right. And I just don't they don't really inspire me to pick them higher. St. Louis and New Orleans again. I like Tony Banks. Obviously they had a lot of offensive firepower. He was launching them for a while, but he was also taking his licks too. Again, there maybe Orlando Pace is his development will hopefully help them develop into a more cohesive unit. But again, Dick Vermeil, that was just I don't understand that choice of coaches at all. I think that he's another one where the end of the season could be the end of a career for him. And then you go to the Aints and Danny Werfel, Lamar Smith, Billy Joe Holbert. Yeah, it just what was he thinking? And then this whole hazing incident. Don't even want to get into it. It's just
terrible.
New Orleans is just awful. That is a jinxed franchise, and it's just he should just quit and go smoke cigars. And, let someone else come in and take care of them because again
they need to be babies.
Maybe Werfel is going to be a quarterback, but. Not with the team that he's got surrounding him now. These things they have to show some potential somewhere. Put him to bed. It's San Francisco division. I would imagine Mike would think the same way.
I don't know. Let's take a peek. Do you think we have the same?
Oh, the Saints win? Oh, no. Okay.
13-3. Steve Young, still a viable NFL quarterback. Jerry Rice, they're resting him a bit for the season. Terrell Owens obviously came on big. He's obviously showing he still has what it takes during the preseason. Garrison Hurst, if you're in a fantasy league, try to get your hands on him. They like to throw to him as well, and now that Terry Kirby's no longer in that spot, he'll be their third down back as well. So he's going to see a lot of balls coming his way. He could score a ton of touchdowns for you. Their defense, even though they lost Dana Stubblefield, they still have Bryant Young, Junior Bryant. I don't even know who the other guy is on that defensive line, but they still have a very solid defense. They have the kid R.W. Quarters, the running back, the defensive back, and they picked up, I think, Antonio Langham to shore up that.
For Woodson.
Right, to shore up that corner. So they still have a very good defense, and as I keep repeating, defense is what's going to carry you. And when you're in that division, enough said. Atlanta, Chandler, Martin, fine. They're 7-9. Jamal Anderson, Dan Reeves perennially has himself a pretty good team, no matter where he's been. So you'd think they're going to be around 500.
Strong finish the end of last year.
And they can even be a little bit better and maybe make a playoff run if they can beat up on the three below them, the Carolina or St. Louis, New Orleans combination. Carolina. You're right in that you just don't. They baffle you because they were so quick, so good, so quick, but then they just came right back down and kind of fell back to earth. So I think that Jacksonville took the right approach, as the Florida Marlins of baseball prove. You draft young, you stay young, and you build, and then you can win. Whereas Carolina went the Colorado approach. Yeah, they came close one year like the Rockies did, but now they're falling back on hard times because they went old first, trying to win quickly. St. Louis, they do nothing for me. And New Orleans, they even do less. So why don't we just move on, and we don't even need to talk about that division. San Fran, 13-3, they roll. Playoff time.
Yes.
Why don't we talk about my AFC playoff situation? There we go. I have Kansas City, who will win their division by virtue of a tiebreaker, and they will take on Cincinnati, who I think is going to squeak into the playoffs as that last wild card spot. I have KC actually winning that game, 35-21. Denver, who will be the home wildcard team, over Pittsburgh 21-20 in a rematch of the AFC Championship game. That matchup always brings some battles. Pittsburgh's won on Denver's field before. That's why I like that game to be close, so we'll have to wait and see. That'll move things up to the following week, where KC will move on to Jacksonville, who will be the number 2 seed. And I like Jacksonville to beat KC in what should be a great game, battle of great defenses. Mark Brunell will lead over Elvis Gerbeck, and I think that Coughlin will beat out Marty Schottenheimer, who continually cannot get it done when it comes to playoff time. At least that's what I'm predicting. New England will be the #1 seed with their 12-4 record, and will face Denver in a rematch of the opening week. I have probably, some inclination that New England probably will lose opening night, just because maybe Denver's riding high with rings on their fingers. I think the payment will be revenge come the second week of playoffs, and they will go on to face Jacksonville. Chris, what do you got in the AFC?
Sounding pretty familiar. I don't really think this is a surprise. Pittsburgh, Miami, swan song for Dan. He gave it a good shot, but I have the Steelers winning there. Kansas City, I'm going to give them a chance because I haven't played in the first round. They're going to take on Jacksonville, and they're going to win, but they will lose to Denver because that's what Marty Schottenheimer does. And on the revenge platter, as an appetizer for the Patriots, let's take Pittsburgh, and we're gonna dine on them for a little while and take them, and I guess that would set up a Patriot Bronco championship game.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll get to that matchup, and when we get to it, which should be a little bit interesting. Why don't we move to your NFC playoffs, and what do you have on the board, and what do you have on the table for teams that make it, and scores? What do we have here?
Let's see. I like Dallas. They're going to make a run again. And Minnesota, almost kind of in the fashion last year, get strong for the push. And those teams are going to advance. Green Bay and Minnesota, a little black and blue division rematch again. And I have Green Bay winning there. And Frisco, Dallas, they have to play in the playoffs. Isn't that like some sort of law? I know it was broken, maybe last year. But we're going to have Frisco beating them out, and then we'll get a Frisco-Green Bay matchup.
Interesting.
What's your NFC looking like?
Well, a little of this, little of that, little black, little blue. What do we have here? Oh, the Arizona Cardinals. Somebody's riding a bandwagon over Dallas in a matchup of the division winner against the lowest wildcard seed. I have Arizona upsetting Dallas, and I have Green Bay as the home wild card over Minnesota. But, as I said before, Minnesota, if they can put any type of defense together, I think they could win that game. That's how much I think Green Bay is falling off. And I like Minnesota potentially if they can put the D, that's the key. The defense is the key for that team. If they can put it together, flip-flop that score. Then I have Arizona heading to San Fran, and you just don't win in San Fran when you're a team that's taking little baby steps, which is what Arizona will be doing this year. I think that they're on the up. This is their start. Maybe if Morrell isn't the guy, then maybe they can move on. But Tampa Bay over Green Bay, 17-13 in the Battle of the Bays. The warm weather will be the difference, and Tampa Bay will upset Green Bay. So why don't we move on to see my championship games. Oh, what do we have here? San Fran over Tampa Bay. I couldn't do it. Even though SI had Tampa Bay going to the Super Bowl, I just couldn't pull the trigger on that. Figuring home field advantage would be the difference in that decision there. San Fran with Young, Rice, like you said, Swan Song maybe, still a solid defense. And Mariucci's, they're starting to believe in him, I think. New England, Jacksonville, rematch of 2 years ago. Again, home field. And New England, I think that their running game, Robert Edwards, is an absolutely huge key to that team because their defense is going to carry them as far as they can possibly go. If they can put any type of running game together, obviously Bledsoe with his arm can take you to the Super Bowl as he's proven before. So I'm going to have a Super Bowl situation of New England, San Fran. What do you have?
Let's take a look at my finals. Let's see. Green Bay beats Frisco, and to hell with the jinx and whatnot. I'm going to have the Patriots beating Denver in Denver.
Oh.
So we got a rematch of Super Bowl 31 with Green Bay and New England. That's how I see it anyway.
Okay. Well, we come to the end of the show here, where we're going to start to decide who is going to win Super Bowl 33 XXX III. When you get down to the dynamics of the situation, San Francisco is a proven team. They've been there. They've won how many Super Bowls? 4, 5?
Like a jillion.
They know how to do it. New England's been there twice. They have not won it. But when it comes down to the final game, I think that the team that's going to win it. Oh, what do we have for Chris?
Oh, I think I'm going to go with the Packers for those exact same reasons that Mike said, experience and quality people. They are a little bit younger than San Francisco. That's why I think I have them in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But unfortunately for us Patriots fans, it's another sad Super Sunday.
Oh, what is the score going to be?
The score is going to be actually 27-25. They're going to go for a 2-point conversion, and Robert Edwards is going to drop the ball.
Oh, don't put it all on the rookie. All right, well, I had my pick first, so I screwed up that. But on a different light, I think the winner of the Super Bowl is going to be... Da-da-da-da. Oh, I couldn't do it. I did it last year, and I was wrong. I had one of the teams in the Super Bowl, obviously Green Bay, and they were the loser, but I picked New England. And maybe had they beat Pittsburgh, they would have been New England, because they would have had that home playoff game last year, and they probably would have maybe exacted revenge on Green Bay. San Fran, 24-21, maybe a late field goal, a young kind of swan song thing. I'd love to pick New England, don't get me wrong. And we both have them going to the Super Bowl, go figure. And we would probably be there.
I know.
If they do make it there, but that's the way we see it. We will obviously, hopefully, weather being the key factor, at the end of the season we'll do a playoff preview, see how we did with these picks, see where the real matchups end up being, what teams play against, because that has a lot to decide on who you really like, because if certain teams play certain teams, you're like, whoa, gee, I don't think they could beat them. So we'll have to see then, and that's how we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody behind the scene. Thanks for everybody involved, and thanks for the help. And Chris, we'll see you come late December.
Sounds good.
January.
We'll make an appointment.
Okay.
See you then.
Good night.